What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Big Baby Jonathan here. Welcome to the latest edition of the Big Baby Jonathan Sports Podcast Show. On the line right now on Zoom, I got Trevor Lane from LakersNation.com. How's it going, Trevor Lane?
Going good, going good. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Just staying busy during this quarantine with this podcasting. I have a lot of Laker content I put out each and every day, man. I love what I do. I'm very passionate.
Well, that's always a good thing, you know. I mean, when you love what you do, then it doesn't feel like work, does it? And it helps keep you sane during these troubling times too. That's for sure.
Yeah, and also, guys, forgot to mention my boy Alex Hines is going to produce the show today. He has his own show called Get It Right, and also Don't At Me with Mikel PG. So he's a producer of today's show. Let's get on into it, guys. Question one: what was the process that you led to becoming a writer for LakersNation.com?
For getting to Lakers Nation, a long time ago, just fell in love with writing back when I was in school, and was something that I've always been interested in. And so I started and stopped a number of different novels and things like that just I can never follow through with because I was always so focused on basketball and Lakers basketball specifically, because that was what I grew up on. I was winding up spending all my writing time, digging through rumors and things to see who the Lakers were going to trade for and all that. And so I said, you know what, you got to write what you love. And so I started up my own blog and got picked up by one site from that. And then from there, got an offer to come join Lakers Nation. Originally, I was writing one editorial for them a week, and that was it. That was the extent of my role, and it's grown over the years. And now I'm doing their podcasts and their video content and still doing some writing as well.
Yeah, man, I love the work that you do. You put out great content, man.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then next question, number 2, do you think there will be an NBA season?
Yeah, you know what? I've been saying it from day one. I'm holding out hope that it will happen. There is, obviously there's a little bit of selfish, bias coming into play here because the Lakers are sitting in the 1 seed, and I'd like to see them have a shot to, be in the playoffs for the first time in 6 years and have a pretty decent shot of winning an NBA championship this year. So I've been trying to stay optimistic, partially because of that, but also just there's so much money out there, so much on the line. I feel like if there's any way possible to make it happen, they're going to figure out something. It won't look like what we're used to, but at some point, I think something will happen and we'll wind up with some version of the NBA playoffs. And I just also think that will be such a big thing for the country, for the morale of basketball fans to see the NBA season actually come to some sort of a conclusion. I think it'll be a big deal.
Do you think that the season, if it does come back though, like the idea that we've all heard is that there would be no fans, no fans in the stadium. We saw the UFC fight the other night where there were no fans in attendance, and it really does change up the atmosphere and also the reactions of, in that instance, the fighters. But for the NBA, you see that the fan interaction and the crowd interaction is so important and imperative for these players to have, because it really does sway advantages to the left or the right in terms of which teams are visiting and also the home team advantage. Do you think that without the fan interaction, players are going to stumble to try and adjust?
Oh, players are going to stumble trying to adjust, period. I mean, taking 2 months, maybe 3 months off of no training and then to jump back into it, we're going to see some ugly basketball. There's no question about that. And then you throw in what you're talking about, no audience. That's going to be tough. And that's why like your Jared Dudleys of the world are going to make their money, because those guys on the bench are going to have to be really, really fired up and really vocal to keep their guys going. That is kind of the downside, is if when you're one of the top 4 seeds in either conference, you don't even get a round of home court advantage, assuming they go with this bubble plan and you see all the players housed in either Orlando or Las Vegas. There is no home court advantage. So what you've been working for all year is kind of gone. But at the same time, we're at a point where it's that or no basketball, right? And so if that's the choice, I'll take, no fans in the arena and getting to see basketball. You mentioned the UFC fights the other night. Those were amazing. I loved those. That was so much fun. And it felt like a little bit of normalcy again, which was great. So yeah, it was a little bit weird that there's no crowd there, but I mean, we're craving live sports so badly right now that you'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it, man. This season has been good for the Lakers, 49-14, and I want the season to come back. We got to win this championship for Kobe, man. The 2020 has been hitting us hard, then passing. Rest in peace, Kobe. And if we can come back and win this championship, this will be the craziest season I've been a part of. You know what I mean? I'm excited. Hopefully the season comes back. But I saw Jared Dudley. You retweeted it because I didn't see it. People were sending it to me because Jared Dudley blocked me. What was Jared Dudley talking about on Twitter yesterday? You know?
So Dudley, he said he was responding to somebody else, and he said 2 months. We've missed 2 months, and now 1 month to go. And so people took that as, hey, what do you know? Do you know something? Do you know that something's going to be happening? I know Dudley has mentioned that he was on the call with Adam Silver this past Friday, where all the players were invited in to go and kind of ask questions and get a feel for what's going on at the NBA level. And so he was part of that. And so he said 1 more month to go. And some people took that as he means 1 more month where the NBA will have to make a definite decision. So you're looking at like mid-June. Or some people took that as, hey, 1 more month and we're coming back because we know the training facilities are starting to open up. He not that I've seen anyway, he didn't clarify on that one. He did make a comment the other day as well, that his impression was that Adam Silver was sort of implying that the NBA season could run all the way through October, and he'd be okay with that if that meant finishing up the season. So, I don't know what to take away from all of that other than it doesn't sound like a decision one way or another is necessarily coming in the next week or 2 weeks. We could be another month down the road.
Do you think that Lakers are gonna open up the practice facilities this weekend? Because I know last week Shams tweeted that we're targeting May 16th. Have you heard anything different?
No, yeah, it seems like that's what they're shooting for, is to open it up May 16th. It'll be voluntary. In fact, that was one of the big topics. Was Chris Paul had brought that up, that some players felt a little uncomfortable, that there were some teams that made it seem like even though it was voluntary, and I'm using air quotes, that it was feeling more non-voluntary, like they were pressuring players to go, and they didn't want that. But I think given where this Lakers team is at, if and when they open up the practice facilities, there's going to be players there. Dudley already said he'd be there. Alex Caruso said he'd be there. But that is another point of emphasis for the teams, though, too, is they don't necessarily want it getting out who's there and who's not, because they don't want a situation where a player who just doesn't feel safe or secure going into the practice facility at this point is getting ridiculed for not going. So, but my guess would be that the majority of the Lakers are there.
I got a question for you. We hear that the NBA is considering doing some type of program where players who do get sick, if they do happen to return, right, they'll be out for 2 weeks, quarantine, they'll be checked every day, tested, yada, yada, yada. I'm of the camp where if that's the only solution that we have right now, that creates a major disadvantage for not only that team, but other teams. And it almost creates a playoff situation where, similar to having your best player being out with an injury, it's not fair to that team as well as the other teams, because you're not getting the right competition. You're not getting to the competition that you actually want. If the Lakers end up having to play a playoff series without LeBron James because of having COVID, then it creates an unfair situation where revenue isn't given as much as it should have been received. The fans aren't pleased. The players aren't pleased. Nobody's pleased because of it. So because of that, I'm of the camp where if that's the only solution, I'd rather risk not having an NBA season come back this year to outweight this whole epidemic. And granted, this is going to come in waves. It's not something that's going to be a one-time thing and disappear. It's going to come in waves. But by that point, hopefully, there will be some type of treatment where we don't have to necessarily worry about guys getting this virus and having to be out for 2 weeks. It could potentially be they acquire it and then they end up getting healed by some vaccination, or at that point, some type of immunity strain that is built similar to what we have with the flu every year, where you're given a flu shot. And I don't know about you, and I want to get your perspective on that. Do you think that with that scenario, you would be willing to play an NBA season with those risks, or would you rather not?
I mean, I'm not one of the people putting myself on the floor, and so maybe it's a little bit easier for me to say it. But yes, I would rather play the NBA season, and part of that is because it's not like if you say, hey, you know what, let's just cancel this season and then everything's good next season, we can start fresh. No, I mean, the NBA is preparing as though this is going to be an issue next season as well. It's not going away anytime soon. So realistically, they're looking at it as the only solution, the only true solution is a vaccine. And so if you get that, then great. Until then, what can they do to mitigate the risk as much as possible, knowing that there's no way to make zero risk? There's no way to create a perfect situation. That world simply doesn't exist anymore. So with that being the case, you kind of have to take what you can. I mean, you would hate to see an entire NBA season thrown away, knowing that doing so doesn't guarantee that you're getting a healthy season following that. It's not like you're definitely going to get a full 2020/2021 season because that you put a stop to this current season. So with that being the case, yeah, I would still go ahead and play it. I know it's tough. Yes, it would definitely be a tough situation, especially if a superstar player did test positive and then they're out. But that's kind of the playoffs too. I mean, injuries dictate things. You look at, Karl Malone getting injured. How much did that impact the '04 finals? There's been, there's injuries every single year that teams have to deal with. A number of years that Yao Ming went down for the Rockets and so on and so on. So it was just an unfortunate reality that we're in, but all teams would have to deal with it.
Yeah, man, we would have to deal with it, keep it pushing. And also, what's your thoughts about the NBA canceling the draft combine and the draft lottery?
Well, it just came out about an hour ago
Mm-hmm.
that they're trying to set up a virtual draft combine, and they're asking teams to say, hey, who are your top guys? Who are the guys that you really want to be there?
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense. I think that the NBA is going to do everything they can to wait on a decision, to wait on doing anything definite. As frustrating as that can be for fans, it's, I get frustrated too. I'm like, come on, give us something concrete, something, anything concrete, and they're just not there yet. But I think it makes a lot of sense to delay the draft, combine, all that kind of stuff, because you can. And by doing so, you're giving yourself an opportunity to eventually have a conclusion to this current season. You don't do that, and then you create a whole host of issues. So it makes a lot of sense. I think they're also coming to grips with the reality of starting the following season later. It seems more and more likely that that's going to take place. So if you're starting the 2020/2021 season on Christmas Day, say, then you can have your draft combine and all that kind of stuff in September, and your draft at the end of the month or something like that, and you're still fine.
Yeah, I'm all for it, man, to start the season in December. But people are listening. You're listening to Big Baby Jonathan Sports Podcast. We got Trevor Lane, Alex Hines, and we're talking about the NBA potentially coming back in June. So what's your thoughts about that, man? Do you think it's going to come back in June? I think it is, personally.
It's feeling, come back to actual game action feels a little bit because they've already said that they need at least 3 weeks.
Yes.
Right? They need 3 weeks of training to get going, because if you don't do that, like, even if you do that, you're still at risk. But if you don't do that and you try to push guys directly into game action after all, like Quinn Cook is running wind sprints in his apartment, there's no space in there. No. Jared Dudley is on the elliptical, right? Alex Caruso is just doing jump rope, right? I mean, they don't
Jason
have
Tatum said that he doesn't have access to a hoop, so he's just shooting around at home with nothing to do.
But don't you think these players can at least order like a big basketball net or something and just shoot on that? At least, get a workout in,
Yeah, I mean, it's, some of them have figured out ways to get into gyms and places like that they can kind of wipe down to mitigate risk, but it's not like they have a training facility. So the concern with coming back in June is, are the guys ready, right? Are they ready to play? Are their legs, their bodies capable? Otherwise, if you're not prepared physically and you plant to make a cut, and the next thing you know, something pops, right? That's a big concern, is injury. So they want to give them at least 3 weeks. So with that being the case, and where we are at now in the month of May, I'm looking more at July, but I guess end of June, could be possible.
Baseball just said that they're targeting July to come back. So that's cool. It's going to be weird without fans, man, and stands. But hey, at this point, I'm tired. Old school basketball games are cool to watch. 2010 Laker championship. It's cool to watch, but I'd rather have live Laker basketball, man. I miss it, man, because Lakers have been down last 6 years. I want another championship behind me, man. I want the Lakers to win it for Kobe this year, man.
Oh, sure. But have you noticed they've been playing the Korean Baseball League?
I've seen that.
The KBO. You've seen they pump in the crowd noises. And then they have the kind of cutout fans and things like that. Like, it, to me, when I was watching that the first time, it took an inning or two before it clicked. And I realized, oh, wait, there shouldn't be crowd noises there, because it sounded so natural. I don't know. I kind of hope they do something like that to just kind of preserve as much of the game atmosphere as they can, even if it's not authentic.
See, that's what my thoughts were. I thought they would do something along the lines like on every Jumbotron, right? You'd have fans kind of similar to what the NFL draft was. You'd have like a select group of fans from either team, right? 30 on each side, basically, Zoom chatting in, watching the game, and also providing that atmosphere. Granted, the players wouldn't be able to see the fans up top, but you could hear them filling up throughout the stadium, and the fans could watch the games similar to what you would do on League Pass on their computer while they're on the call. It gives the fans an interest to be there. It gives fans a potential, like some type of contest where you win the slot to actually be on the Jumbotron during the games, being one of those fans, right? So you're creating fan interaction. You're also creating player interaction, and you're getting people back into it. you're getting people interested, and you're getting the fans. I mean, you're giving the players exactly what they need, which is that fan part of the game.
Yeah, that could be a cool feature for them to do. The only thing I can foresee is they would definitely have to have like a 10-second delay or anything like that, because otherwise you would get people flashing some inappropriate signs and things like that. But yeah, it would be interesting to see them pull something like that off. Anything to try to preserve as much of the atmosphere as possible, knowing that you can never get the true experience to be exactly the same. But anything you can do to try to bring as much normalcy as possible on for it.
I know there's going to be no fans, but what does that do for the owners like Jeannie Buss? Is she going to be able to go to the games with her workers, or they got to be away from the stadium? Like, I wonder how that's going to affect the owners and stuff too.
Yeah,
I
don't know what that's going to look like just yet. I would imagine there's going to be some type of mandate to try to keep the buildings as empty as possible, and that may very well include owners as well. I mean, you also have to think about what kind of example is that setting if the owners do show up and they're in person, even if they aren't absolutely necessary to be there. So I would be a little bit surprised to see like an owner just sitting in the middle of the empty seats or anything like that, just for that reason. But I guess you never know. We'll have to see what approach they take there.
I mean, I could definitely see them having, if they're doing it like in Orlando and Vegas, like we said, I can definitely see owners sitting in boxes, which are far enough spread out apart. One at middle court on one side, the other one at middle court on the other side. So you have each team's owner just present, watching in a box, most likely watching from a television as opposed to actually looking down, But them being there, I feel like that's something that players in a strange way need. It's some type of normalcy, right? You're not able to get the fans there, but if you can at least look up and see, or at least know that an owner's up there watching, that's something different that applies another level of normalcy to it, if you will.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely an argument for having that, especially if you can keep them completely separate from the players. But we'll see. That's something the NBA has to figure out. What do you do to try to minimize as much as possible the number of people that are in the building or in the so-called bubble, right? They've got to take a look at that, and we'll see exactly where they draw the line.
Yeah, man, it's going to be crazy. But if the Lakers do not win the championship with LeBron, will that impact his legacy, in your opinion?
Win a championship ever, or
if he never wins a championship with the Lakers, will that impact his legacy?
No, I think his legacy is already secured. It's already cemented. I think what you're looking at now is almost like an extra credit situation, right? Like LeBron is LeBron. He's one of the greatest of all time, and the things that he's done are already set. If he doesn't win with the Lakers, and part of it is because this season gets canceled, and then next season he's 36. Like you can't really fault him that much for those things, but. If he does win a championship with the Lakers, if he brings number 17 to LA, I think that's only going to enhance his legacy that much more. So I see it as kind of a no-lose situation for him if things go down, the way that we want, and the Lakers win a championship, then great. He's going to be that much more of a legend.
I don't think that it affects his legacy in terms of with the Lakers, right? I think there's something to be said about you have legacy overall, but then you also have legacy with the associations that you're with. Like his legacy with the Heat cemented, his legacy with the Cavs for sure cemented. With the Lakers, it's the latter end of his career, and he's changing his game. So he's not the same LeBron that we've seen. But I definitely think, especially now that The Last Dance is out, and of course everyone's having that discussion. I hate it just because it's not worth the time and day to spend rehashing the subject. Same time and time again, But I definitely do believe that there's something to be said about his overall legacy with the league because we still are bringing it up. LeBron's legacy, I do believe, will get affected overall if he does not win with the Lakers. But I won't hold it against him. I think that there's a clear distinction. It can affect his legacy, but that doesn't mean you actually have to hold it against him or pigeonhole him with that as being almost an asterisk,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, if he's able to win, I think that's going to make a huge difference. If he doesn't win, I don't think it takes that much away from it. I mean, there's going to be people on either side that are going to make arguments. Oh, LeBron's clearly he just destroyed his legacy by being with the Lakers and not winning. And there's LeBron haters out there. There's people who love LeBron. There's people who are going to want him to succeed. But ultimately, I think so much of his legacy is already secured. Like you mentioned, this is already kind of the tail end of his career, at least what we think is the tail. Who knows? Maybe he plays till he's 45. At this point, I'm not even convinced he's fully human. So I'm not gonna write anything off there. But But look, if he does win with the Lakers, the big impact is going to be, you're right, not just his overall legacy, but as far as the city of LA goes, there is still, it's definitely been diminished, but there's still kind of that counter element where people are a little bit wary of LeBron because there's still that holdover from the Kobe versus LeBron type stuff. Like it was probably 50-50 when LeBron first signed, where some people weren't thrilled that he was going to be in LA. And there's still people who, anytime you mention something positive about LeBron, people jump in and say, he's not Kobe though.
Yep.
I think winning a championship, I think would definitely go a long way towards submitting him as being a Laker and being accepted by the city, even though I'd say most of the city has accepted him at this point. But to get those remaining stragglers, I think winning a championship would go a long way.
I have something for you on that point.
No, I said for me, if LeBron doesn't win the championship with the Lakers, I'll be like, man, it was a complete failure because as fans, we're all about championship and banners. We don't play that, let's win 49 games, make the playoffs. Oh, it's a good season. Nope. We're all about rings and banners, man. If he doesn't win it, I'm just going to be like, didn't get it done. Let's keep it pushing. Let's bring in the next great player. You know what I mean? Go ahead,
I have
Alex.
a hot take for both of you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
LeBron James is not the best small forward of all time.
I already know what you're going to say. Larry Bird?
100%. 100%. And no, that is not because I'm a Celtics fan. It's just based off of pure facts. LeBron James, don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like I'm diminishing LeBron James.
No,
right? There's something to be said, like I said before. I'm not diminishing what he has, but in comparison to Larry Bird, LeBron James has a body, a very gifted and talented body. He is a physical specimen that we've never seen before in the league. We saw how Jordan was a physical specimen. We saw how Magic was a physical specimen at his position. Kareem, Jordan, Kobe in a way. If you're going to mention Jordan, then you have to mention Kobe, right? But LeBron is that, but the apex predator in terms of amazing physical physique for the game. Larry Bird didn't have that and still had better court vision, had the ability to score from all angles on the floor more consistently than LeBron has. And he also played in what I view, in terms of the teams and the teams that he faced in the postseason, a much tougher era to actually play in. So with all that said, to me, Larry Bird is the greatest small forward of all time. Not to mention how you hear Magic Johnson talk about Larry Bird, his accolades, the fact that he was in second in MVP voting for multiple years and then won MVP 3 years straight, and then was second in MVP voting the year that he lost, the year after that. Larry Bird is the greatest small forward to ever pick up a basketball.
Go ahead, Trevor.
I mean, I disagree, but I feel like I'm wearing an LA Bron shirt right now. So obviously, I'm going to come across as biased because, I support the Lakers and all that kind of stuff.
You have more insight than most people though. So it's a little different.
What's that?
You have more insight than most fans and people in general do. So I can already tell you it's not bias. It's that you have insight more so than the average fan, the average NBA viewer, and most actual avid viewers and fans in general. So it's non-bias.
Sure, and I try to remove bias as much as I can. I think that, and we've talked about this a bunch on my shows. I think nostalgia is a very powerful thing, and I think that when we're looking back on players from previous years, we're looking at them through that lens of these were our formative. I mean, look, I love Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson is my favorite player of all time, but the way we look at some of these guys now, you go back and you watch a game or you watch an old Jordan game or something, and you're like, wait, Michael Jordan just missed? He missed a shot. We have this perception that, okay, these guys were perfect. They're infallible. They never miss. They do everything great. And we can overlook their flaws because of how much we enjoyed them during that time. And so I think that can come into play a little bit when we're looking at our guys from like the 80s versus today and everything. It's a very different game today than what we saw back then. I'm still very convinced that LeBron James would have no problem playing in the 1980s just because he is so physically strong. And I don't think you can just take that out of the equation, the fact that he is so big and strong. I think his court vision is incredible. His court vision is the best of a lot of guys I've seen. I think he's the closest to Magic Johnson that we've seen in a long time because of his ability to see the floor and pass the ball. I mean, to become what I think is probably the best point guard in the league this season, and switching positions at age 35 is pretty incredible. But when you look at what LeBron has done over the course of his career, the dominance that he's had, the physical tools that he's got, and then add that to the mental game that has only grown year after year after year, and you see how smart he is out on the floor. I mean, if you were to tell me, hey, start a team today, like I'd have a hard time taking Larry Bird over LeBron James just because of all those different elements of the game that LeBron can bring. Not to mention, it's not his game right now, but he's been pretty good defensively this season. But there were years where he was an absolute lockdown defender. So you look on that end of the floor too. I've got to give the nod to LeBron. I think that I mean, I don't know if I want to say that he's the greatest ever, but he's up there. I mean, he's tough to deal with, that's for sure.
Yeah, for me, man, I didn't watch Larry Bird back in the day because I was born in 1993. So for me, my greatest of all time is Kobe. Kobe Bryant. Love his game, love his demeanor on the court. He has a passion. I like LeBron, but I feel like sometimes LeBron doesn't have that Kobe Bryant. Give me the ball, get out the way, I'm taking over. You know what I mean? I know a lot of LeBron fans think I hate LeBron. Well, here's the thing. I didn't like LeBron because the whole Kobe and LeBron thing. He shut me up by coming back down 3-1. I was like, you know what? I got to respect this guy. You know, why would I hate on somebody greatness? But us Laker fans have to embrace LeBron, embrace greatness. You know, LeBron's father time's undefeated, man. So we just got to it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like that gets thrown at him a lot. The whole killer instinct thing. Yeah. Are you the guy that's taking the big shot? I mean, hey, even Jordan passed the ball occasionally. I mean, he threw it to John Paxson, right? But it's just a different playing style. I mean, there's the Kobe, the Jordan, that style, the gunner, I'm going to take the ball, and Shaq goes out against the Pacers in 2000, and I'm going to take every jump shot in overtime, and I'm going to lead the Lakers to victory, right? That's that one mentality, and LeBron has shown he can do that, right? He's done that a number of times in the playoffs. He's did it against the Celtics, did it against the Pistons, but that's not necessarily the way he's wired. He's wired more, okay, I'm going to make the right basketball play. I'm gonna drive baseline on one side, and I'm going to swing the pass to the other side to Danny Green, who's going to hit the three at the buzzer to send us into OT against the Mavs, right? I'm going to make that type of play. He's more, let me make sure that I make the right basketball play. And some people disagree with that. Some people would rather see a superstar that says, come hell or high water, I'm taking the shot. It's just a little bit different in terms of the approach. And I think there's pros and cons either way. I mean, hey, Damian Lillard going berserk and scoring 40 or 45 or 50 is a lot of fun when you're not playing against him. But personally, I love seeing a good pass too. So I understand, why LeBron plays the way that he does, and I've got an appreciation for it.
I agree with that. I think that it's also just totally different players and aspects. And like you had mentioned against the Celtics and the Pistons, if you think about the teams he had at that time, with the Pistons in particular, against them, he had to take over. He had to. With the Heat, he didn't necessarily have to, but it definitely pushed them that much further, and it made him that much better for it. And he had to establish himself at that point as the apex predator on that team. Now at this point in his career, he doesn't need to do that because he's never had a player, in all respect to Dwayne Wade. Anthony Davis is another level talent at this point in his career. He's much younger than when LeBron got to Dwayne Wade. He's much more versatile in so many different ways. He's that much bigger of a superstar, of a player, of a talent, and a problem for other teams to face. So they don't necessarily, or LeBron in particular, doesn't necessarily need to play the bully ball game or the I'm going to take over game. He has a lot of good, talented players around him to take that load off of his back. And also, he doesn't need to be that guy anymore in this career, at this point in his career, like we were saying.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the benefit of constructing the roster that they did. The previous season, the Lakers went and grabbed Lance Stevenson and Michael Beasley and players like that. And LeBron just had no floor spacing. This season, he's got floor spacing. He's got Anthony Davis that he can throw the ball to, even though, the offense for the Lakers definitely, it takes a big downswing when LeBron's not on the floor. And that's been a problem for them all season long. Anthony Davis hasn't been that, hey, we need a bucket. LeBron's over on the bench, throw the ball to AD and he's going to go get something done. That hasn't really been his forte this season. So that's been a little bit of a challenge for him, is to kind of still, run the offense and take things over. But he's managed to make the right play at the right time for the majority of the season and find open teammates. And he still had opportunities when other guys get going to be able to step back, even though it felt like those last 4, 5, 6 games, right before we cut things off, man, LeBron really stepped up his game. We saw he took on the challenge against the Bucks, against the Clippers. He's guarding Kawhi. It felt like he was just starting to ramp things up, and then boom, somebody kicked the cord out of the wall and the plague hit.
Yeah, man. It's crazy, man. But Trevor Lane, Alex Hines, just want to say thank you guys for coming on. So Trevor Lane, go ahead and give out your social media so they can follow you.
Yeah, sure. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me at Trevor_Lane. On Instagram, it's at Trevor Lane NBA. And you can follow my work over on LakersNation.com. And most of my video stuff is at the Lakers Nation YouTube channel.
All right, man. Thanks you guys for coming on. We'll talk soon, guys.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.